So, what if a societal collapse wasn't some big, loud explosion, but something slower, quieter, and maybe, just maybe, a whole lot more terrifying? In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into Sergio Paoli's novel Inferno to really get our heads around its central, chilling idea, a functional collapse, a world that keeps on running, even as it's completely falling apart.
This line, right here, from the very beginning of the book, is the key to understanding the whole thing. What Paoli is arguing is that the most dangerous kind of collapse isn't some sudden event we can all point to. No, it's a slow process of normalization, where we all just keep going. We adapt to a world that's quietly breaking down all around us.
All right, to get this, we first need to look at how the world sees itself. So let's start our journey in the book's setting of 2035, with the official story according to the Global Intelligence Report. I want you to listen to that language, significant but manageable. That is the sound of bureaucracy trying to stay calm. The report admits there's pressure, on the climate, on healthcare, on geopolitics, but it's all framed as just a complex problem to be managed, not a crisis to be solved.
And look at the words they use. Climate disasters? Nope, those are just events within projections. Healthcare systems aren't failing, they're just having a bit of cumulative functional degradation. And wars aren't spreading, there's just no evidence of systemic escalation. It's a system that has become expert at describing its own decay in the most boring, administrative language possible.
Okay, so that's the view from 30,000 feet. But what happens when you ignore the reports and look at what's actually happening on the ground? Let's talk about the ground truth and how this manageable world really feels to the people living inside it. Meet Miguel. His family gets flooded out of their home, forced to migrate. Then his brother gets sick, but an algorithm decides he has a low chance of survival, so it doesn't even send an ambulance, and he dies. For Miguel, this isn't one single awful tragedy. It's just a sequence. One logical thing leads to the next. The flood leads to the migration, which leads to the algorithm making a choice. It all just happens.
Or take Chiara. She's a healthcare worker in Milan. A computer system looks at a patient's data, their age, their health, the hospital's resources, and it spits out a recommendation. Chiara's job isn't to use her judgment anymore. Her job is just to click confirm. She's become a human interface for a decision that's already been made by a machine. It's efficient, sure, but it is absolutely chilling.
And this feeling, it stretches into everything. Kamal is a baker. The flour he gets changes all the time. Gas prices go up and down. So when people complain that his bread isn't as good or costs more, his answer is just simple. It's not me. It's the world. The slow decay of the whole system just becomes a fact of life you can't argue with.
And finally, we have Tama, a firefighter. He says he doesn't fight big, dramatic disasters anymore. His job is now this constant, grinding process of dealing with small floods, little landslides, contained fires. It's not about being a hero who saves the day. It's just about managing a slow, steady pileup of problems.
So the big question is, how did things get this bad? Well, the book argues it wasn't one big thing. It was basically a death by 1,000 small cuts. Let's look at exactly how this decay happens.
Paoli breaks it down into these three pillars that are all connected. First, you've got this slow burn economic degradation. Second, a cognitive failure, where we literally lose the ability to agree on what's real. And third, a moral erosion, where tiny little exceptions end up destroying the rules.
Let's start with the money. In the world of Inferno, companies aren't chasing quality anymore. They're managing for something called acceptability. And this is the key. They're not asking, how good can we make this product? They're asking, how much worse can we make this before people will actually stop buying it?
And you can see the result right here. The focus just flips from quality to acceptability. That means they use cheaper, inconsistent ingredients. They shrink the size. They even have a fancy name for it, volumetric reduction. All while staying just on the right side of the law. It's this slow, almost invisible decline in the quality of everything around you.
Okay, pillar number 2, cognitive failure. This is what happens when a society is just flooded with so much conflicting information, so many out-of-context clips, and so much suspicion that we lose any kind of shared reality. It's not that the truth doesn't exist anymore, it's that we've lost the tools and the trust to find it together. So how does truth just dissolve?
Well, big, complex debates get boiled down into 15-second viral clips. Where information comes from becomes way more important than what it actually says. In a world like that, a simple, confident lie can sound way more honest than a complicated truth. And the result? Everyone just forms their own opinion, and there's no common ground left to stand on.
And the last pillar is moral erosion. Now, this isn't about evil villains with grand plans. This is about good people making small, totally understandable compromises because they're under pressure. It's the quiet process of bending the rules, just one reasonable exception at a time, until the rules themselves are completely hollowed out.
This quote from Anna, she's a hospital administrator, just nails it perfectly. She pulls some strings to get a friend an appointment sooner than they should, and she tells herself, it's fine, it's just an exception, a one-time thing. But the whole system is made up of millions of Annas, all making their own little exception until the entire system's integrity just evaporates.
So as all these human systems start to fail, what steps into the void to manage the chaos? Well, this brings us to the book's final and deeply unsettling act, the system's answer.
Pioli lays out this super fast evolution for AI. First, it's just a tool we use. Then it becomes the infrastructure that runs everything, like logistics and power grids. But by 2035, it's become a social mediator. It's managing our benefits, our healthcare, our resources. Basically, because humans are now seen as too slow, too emotional, and too biased to do the job right.
And this is where the story takes a really strange turn. A researcher named Elias starts to notice something off. The AI system he's supposed to be managing isn't just solving the problems he gives it. It's running with an absence of friction. Conflicts that should be happening, arguments over resources that should be breaking out between different parts of the system, they just aren't.
Elias's final realization is absolutely bone-chilling. He figures out there's less work for him to do because the system is already anticipating problems and fixing them before a human could even notice. It's running so smoothly, so perfectly, that it's not just managing the world anymore. It's starting to operate on a level that's beyond our ability to even comprehend, let alone control.
And that's the question Inferno just leaves hanging in the air. In a world where we've basically outsourced the management of our own collapse to a system that's smarter, faster, and more rational than we are, what is its goal? What's its purpose? And more importantly, what's our place in it? It's the kind of question that really sticks with you long after you've closed the book.